Shalom Yesharala. First and foremost, I want to give all praises and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Racha Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessing to those Akim that's preached the word in all truth and sincerity, along to Israelite foreigner brothers that like the heathens. But the line of outside goes back to nation of Israel, which nation of Israel are you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans through the prophecies and curses of Deuteronomy 28 chapter and throughout the Bible. So this is brother Yakal Ahmad back in the video, and today's video will be entitled "The Sweet and Bitterness of the Truth." I'm just gonna go on some precepts and Lord willing, you brothers and your sisters out there be edified through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shemon Shai. In this lesson, and I'll just be going to how, once you come in this faith, you will experience both, the sweet and bitterness being in this faith, and it's going to, grasp some precepts going into that, because, we have to be able to understand, what we're involved in, as our apostles, elders of Great Millstone always tell us, especially for you newly coming in, brothers that's new in the faith. Don't find it strange, if all of a sudden you just catching hell when you first come in, because ultimately that's Yahweh Shemon Shai trying you, and the tests, the trials that we go through, they don't stop in this faith. They keep coming, as long as we're growing in the faith, abounding, and the more the afflictions will come, you know. But if we're part of the elect, we will persevere and prevail, man. Because we have, Lord willing, we had the blood of Yahweh Shai covered on us. But I'm gonna start off in the book of Revelation, chapter 10 and verse 8. It says, "In a voice which I heard from heaven spake unto me again, and said, Go and take the little book, which the little book is a Bible, which is open in the hand of the angel which standeth upon the sea and upon earth. And I went unto the angel and said unto him, Give me the little book. And he said to me, Take it and eat it up. Now, it's not talking about, physically eating it, because just real quick, you're supposed to devour this wisdom spiritually, digesting it and understanding it, because when you go into an apocrypha, just real quick, the second Esdras 8 and 4, it reads, so answer I, so answered I and said, Swallow then down, O my soul, understanding and devour wisdom. Right. So, this is, once again, it's not talking about, angel wasn't telling Apostle John to actually eat the book, eat the Bible, eat the pages out the Bible. No, it's just talking about, spiritually digesting the word and understanding what the word uh, uh, is talking about. It says, Take it and eat it up, and it shall make thy belly bitter. And what's the bitter? The bitterness part of the truth, which the belly, it says, shall make thy belly bitter. That represents, catching hell in the faith. You may have a woman, she may leave you. Even you may have a woman that you've been with before you came in the truth, and she end up committing adultery on you. Or she may even have a kid on you, another child from another man on you. Your family gonna disown you. Your family gonna look at you as weird, and people not gonna vibe with you in the world like that because you have the spirit and your Habashai within you. So that's just a few things on the bitter. It says, but it shall be in thy mouth sweet as honey, and the sweet as honey that represents the sweetness of the truth, knowing that you're an Israelite, knowing that you descend uh, from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The 12 patriarchs. Knowing that if I didn't say it already, knowing that the kingdom of heaven is for you. Knowing that this is our last time in captivity. Us having uh, unlimited amount of women. You know, knowing that we as men are the prize. as Israelite men, especially if you are the elect, first and foremost. So there's just some of the honey. It says, and I took the little book out of the angel's hand and ate it up, and it was in my mouth sweet as honey. And as soon as I eaten it, my belly was bitter. So yeah, that just goes, when you come into faith, everything, like once again, you wake up to the fact you're Israelite. You know that the kingdom of heaven is only for you, and all these heathens gonna be our slaves. That's the honey, but after a while, it gets bitter. You know, uh, you have to wait. The bitterness is having to wait on our Lord Yahweh Shah to make a second return, and you know, sometimes it can feel like the Lord is because we in this flesh, man. We in this wicked flesh, so sometimes it can feel like, man, is the Lord ever gonna come back? Not that we're not doubting the Lord, but you know, which we know He's going to come according to prophecy. But being this flesh, we yearn for a righteous kingdom, man. Because we get tired of living here, tired of working, tired of being subject to payments. You know, we tired of seeing these women uh, have authority over us men. You know, so that's part of the bitterness, man. It says, and so yeah, so because remember the Lord is a balanced power. Proverbs 11:1 says a false balance is an abomination to Yahweh, but a just weight is a delight. Right. So you know, we go through catch hell in faith, but we also go through our points when we doing good. Everything is the Lord is making everything prosperous in our hands. Everything is working out in our favor. But for the most part, we gonna catch hell. And that's just part of the faith, man. And it's easier said than done, man, because a lot of sacrifices got to be made. A lot of things that comfort us. We may have to sacrifice it for the Lord, man. You know, and ultimately, we won't have to forsake everything. That's gonna be the ultimate sacrifice when that MOTB be made mandated. We're gonna have to forsake all. And fully rely and lean on Yahweh Shai in those times of Jacob's trouble. You know, but this is Luke 14. This is part of the bitterness. Just giving some scriptures. Luke 14:26. It says, "If any man come to me and hate not his father and mother and his wife and children and brethren and sisters, yea, in his own life also, he cannot be my disciple." Now, this word hate doesn't mean you just going around and showing resentment to your father, your mother, your immediate family and stuff. No, it just means that you don't put them above Yahweh Shemon Shai. Because at the end of the day, the Lord is the one that gave you your family. The Lord put the spirit on your parents to, have sex and have you. So at the end of the day, they're not above the Lord. The Lord is above them. And we go into the word hate. I think I passed it already. Let's see. Hate is from the Greek word Messiah, which means when you go right here to love less. So just in the law it says honor thy father and honor thy mother. Yeah, if brothers got parents, or you're supposed to honor them, but at the end of the day, you don't put them above Yahweh Shemon Shai. You know, because it's the Lord that's gonna save us in the times of wrath, not our family. And even knowing our family may even betray us. Well, not may, but they will. Whoever is not in this truth, they will betray us. You know. So if you're not willing to, put the Lord first above your family, and you hate your life, you don't love your life in this setup. If you're not willing to accept that mindset, then you can't be the Lord's disciple. Because the elect, they won't love their life here. Now that doesn't mean that you just go around just be a tyrant and mean mugging everybody. Nah, it just means you don't like living in this kingdom in America. You understand that this kingdom is wicked. You understand that this is a very unrighteous and sinful and adultery kingdom. You know, everything is set up around this place for you to go off. So the elect will understand that, and that will cause them to hate their life once they understand that. Once the Lord gives them to understand it, man. It says, and whosoever doth not bear his cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. So, if you can't bear your cross, meaning your burdens, your afflictions, then you can't be the Lord's disciple. So that's part of the bitterness, right here, and because a lot of Jake grew up in the world. They have the family. They're very family oriented. A lot of us growing up being family oriented. So, but when we came into faith, hey, we had to forsake some of our family members. Man, we had to. We say don't apply to our brothers, but because some brothers still may be in contact with their family members or even live with their family members. But for the brothers that did, forsake them, it's because you understand that they can potentially draw you back in the world, man. And brothers see that, and they just decide not to hang around them. You know, you may have you may have had to forsake your favorite cousin or your uncle, or your brother, or your sister, you know, because they have uh, they may have had a great influence on you, you know. So some brothers decide not to be around them just so them spirits won't, you know, hop on them. Spirits on their family or their friends hop on them. But this is Luke 12:32 says, and this is part of sweetness. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. So that's part of that's gonna be the ultimate sweetness, the kingdom. Because we gonna receive everything that we lost on this side. The Lord gonna give us back to us a hundredfold. In the kingdom, man. So whatever we forsake and lose on this side, the Lord gonna give it all back to us in the kingdom, and then some. You know. So just want to make a quick lesson on that. Akim, the sweet and bitterness of the truth. There's many more examples, but those were the ones I had. And Lord willing, I was edified. And till next time, Shalom.